Using a day to night transition like this one, you could take a time lapse that you've shot and just elevate it to that next level. In this video, I'm going to walk you through how I shot those time lapses and how I put them together within Premiere Pro to get that final day to night transition effect. In a little bit, I'm going to take you out to the field to show you where I shot the time lapses, as well as to discuss a little bit about how I shot the time lapses. Now, obviously in my time lapse, I used a drone. The reason why I used a drone is it just gives it that little bit more of a unique feel to it. Now, you can use a standard camera on a tripod to shoot time lapses, and that'll work just fine. Again, I just chose to use the drone. So if you are going to use a drone, you do want to make sure that you have a drone that is capable of flying waypoint missions, because you want to fly that same path, identical path, more than once. So I used my DJI Mavic 3 Classic to shoot the drone, and I was very pleased with the final effect. So let's go out to the field now, but make sure you stay tuned, because afterwards we're going to come back into the studio and I'm going to walk you through everything I did within Premiere Pro to get that final effect. It's going to be another drone time lapse. This time we're on the opposite side of the Peace Bridge that you've seen me and Bob. I'm actually with Bob. You've seen Bob and I take photos from. We're on the opposite side, and I wanted to try to get a time lapse of the Peace Bridge at night with buffalo in the background. So some of the challenges are that we have power lines that are going across the river. You can see them out there. Although actually it looks like there are some power lines that are lower than that.
Are they though? Or is that the angle
yeah,
we're looking at?
I think they're closer, but they're lower. So anyways, I'm gonna fly the drone out there, take a look, see how high those power lines actually are.
We'll find out.
Yeah, hopefully I don't fly into them. I don't know. We're actually at a park called Bird Island Park. And what's really unique about this park, and you can't really see it, but you'll probably see it once I get the drone up in the air. There's actually like a breakwater. I don't know if you call it a breakwater. So, I mean, this is the river. So there's like a breakwater that just goes out. And I gotta say, it's probably gotta be about, what do you say, Bob, 2 miles long?
What?
The pier?
Oh gosh, I don't know. It's pretty long. I know it's over a mile to the bridge.
Yeah, so I don't know, it may even be longer than 2 miles. So it's an interesting walk. It's very narrow. I've actually taken photos off there, and I've actually kind of went across the chain that's supposed to keep you on the trail. And I was standing on some of the rocks that actually make up the breakwater. I'll tell you what, it was a little scary. This river, this is Niagara River. This river, I mean, it flows, man. It's moving out.
It hauls.
And if you ever fell in there, I don't know, you may not be coming back out. So,
well, they put this fence up since the last time I was here.
Anyways, sun's going down. Well, we thought it might be a really nice sunset, but now it looks like it's actually clear. It was almost totally overcast. It went from overcast to breaks in the clouds, and now it looks like it's actually clearing up. So I don't know. We'll have to see what the sunset turns out to be. But in the meantime, I'm going to put the drone up in the air. I'm going to take a look at those power lines as well as I can with the drone without putting it in danger. And we'll see. Hopefully the drone doesn't go in the river, because there ain't no getting it. Bob's wearing shorts today. That's a little braver than me. As hot as it was the other day, it's a little cool today.
What the heck?
So I threw on some sweats and a jacket. I see you, Bob. See you in my drone. All right, I got satellites. I'm all set.
I can't even get started here.
While Bob was messing around with his drone trying to get it up in the air, I got my drone up in the air, flew out to the power lines, and I took a look at them. I probably could have either flown over them or underneath them, but seeing as I was going to be flying a waypoint mission and flying it at night, I decided to just stay away from them, and that probably was a good decision.
One of the things you have to be mindful of when you're flying here, and actually there's a lot of places in Buffalo you got to be mindful of this when you're flying the drone, is that over there on the other side of the river is Canada. So halfway across the river is Canadian airspace, and you do have to be mindful that you don't fly into Canadian airspace, or you might create an international incident. We don't want them Canadians coming down here and causing trouble. So, right, Bob?
That's right, Dan.
All right. So Bob's infinite infinite well of wisdom. I just got done doing the day shot. I actually didn't have enough battery to complete it all because I'd been buzzing around for a little bit, taking video and pictures and doing a dry run. So I probably should have been smart and come back in and actually changed out the battery before I did that. But if I'm going to do a day to night transition, I've got enough of that because I only had, out of a 13-minute, almost 14-minute mission, I only had 3 minutes left. So I got more than 3/4 of the video, so or of the images that'll make the video, I should say. I'm just waiting now. Bob and I are waiting for the sun to go down and to get a little bit darker out. The bridge starting to light up a little bit. I already got the new battery in the drone, and we're just gonna let the lights go down a little bit more, and then I'll take the second part of the time lapse. I may just create also just a total time lapse that's just nothing but night, the night shot. That's what I came down here to do originally, but I figured while we had time and the light was up, I would shoot a day shot, a day time lapse, and give me that option to do day to night. So stay tuned, and if the time lapse come out, here it is. So while we're waiting, I got Bob here. Bob's a wealth of wisdom.
Yeah, he's a wise guy.
Yeah. Anything you want to tell people, Bob? Any nuggets of wisdom you got?
No, I don't.
No.
Not at this time.
Any advice about drone flying, or don't crash into power lines?
Yeah, don't crash in the water. Watch out for power lines.
That's it? Make sure you don't land in a tree.
Yeah, I've done that already.
For me, it'll probably be another half hour, 45 minutes before we shoot.
I don't know
For
about
you,
that, Dan.
it'll be instant. Oh, Bob doesn't know about that. I don't know. We'll see.
I'm not gonna wait till dark.
We're not gonna wait till dark.
No, wait till the lights come on.
Well, as you can see, I convinced him to wait till dark. Not that he had much of a choice, because I was actually his ride home.
Welcome back to the studio. Now that we've got our two videos shot, in this case, one for the daytime and one for the nighttime, all I'm going to do is walk you through how I do put that together to make that day to night transition within Adobe Premiere. I've been using Premiere Pro ever since I started video editing. It's what I'm familiar with, but I'm sure all the other major video editing programs have the capability to do something similar to this. I'm sure DaVinci Resolve has this. Pretty sure that Final Cut Pro would have something similar to how this would work. So while you guys weren't looking, I actually imported all the images into Lightroom, did some adjustments, exported them, and then within Photoshop, I put them together into a time lapse and created an MP4. So with that, let's go into Adobe Premiere and take a look at what we need to do here. So here you can see I've brought in the two videos. Like I said, I processed them in Lightroom and Photoshop to create MP4s of the time lapse. You can see here's the nighttime one, and then if we hide that one, now we have the daytime one, the daytime time lapse. Okay, so what we want to do, first thing we want to do is we want to make sure that these things are in sync. The drone flew a time lapse and it was moving. So if you were going to do this stationary, you wouldn't have this problem necessarily. But with this, because the drone was moving, I need to make sure that the videos are synced in the exact same spot, because the videos didn't start at the exact same place. So the way to do that is I will take, and here's a good example. Let me scroll back here. You can see like the arch to the bridge here. Let's zoom in a little bit. Okay, so the arch to the bridge is right here. And if we turn the nighttime back on, you'll see the arch of the bridge is over here. So we're in two different locations, before or after. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to get that bridge arch in the same place. I'm going to go back where it's maybe a little bit lighter and I can see that bridge arch a little bit better. And just so you know, when you do these videos, the way you want to put them in your timeline is you want to put the first video on the bottom and the second video on the top. In other words, in this case, I'm going from day to night. So I've got the night time lapse on the top. I've got the daytime time lapse on the bottom. If I were to go the other way and go from night to day, I would swap those around. Okay, so we got the night one on top, and that's the one we can see right now. And what I will do is I will take and turn the opacity down on the top video. And when you do that, what you can see is you want to leave enough so that you can see it's kind of ghosted a little bit. But you can see those two arches of the bridge are not lined up. So what I'll do is I'll move both these videos out a little bit. And then what I can do is on the Mac, I'll hit the command key. On a PC, that would be the control key. And I will move these videos by hitting the arrow key until those bridges are lined up. So right there is pretty close. You can see all the pylons. All these pylons here are kind of matched up. So if we were to bring the opacity up, you can see there's not much difference there. Now there's going to be a little bit of a difference. You're probably never going to get it perfect. Maybe if it was stationary, maybe you get it perfect, but that's pretty darn close. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to turn the opacity up to 100%, and I'm going to leave it there now. And if you want, what we'll do is we'll take both of these, select them both now, we can move them to the beginning of the time lapse. All right. So let's get this back to where we can see the whole video. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrub through the timeline, and I'm going to try to find a place where I think the time lapse would be good to start transitioning. And for me, I feel like maybe right about there. So if we look at the daytime and the nighttime, I think that's a good place to start. So what I'm going to do now is make sure that the top timeline is selected. I'm going to zoom this out a little bit so that we can kind of see what's going on. And I'm actually going to zoom it out even more than that. We'll go to 10%. And you want to be able to see outside of the area of the visual part of the video. Okay? And you'll see why in a little bit. So now that I can see outside the area, I've got the top video selected. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create a mask. And I'm going to create that mask by clicking on this create 4-point polygon mask here. Okay, so once we did that, now you see that the video has changed, and what happens is we see the daytime on the outer part of it. We see the daytime time lapse, and then this little window here, you see the nighttime time lapse. And basically, what's happening is we created a mask. What we're saying is in this area here is what's going to be visible on this video, the one that we have selected. And everything below, everything outside of that is going to be anything that's below it. So in this case, it's the daytime time lapse. So that's why we see just that little bit of window. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reselect that mask, and I'm going to move it off screen. Okay. And you want to give yourself a little bit of room. So just move it off screen. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag these 4 points, and I'm going to make this mask bigger than the video, because we don't want, we're going to animate this mask, we're going to move it, and we don't want the mask at any point to not cover the or to not fill the screen once we're done moving it. Okay, so once you've got that done, then what I like to do is I give my transition a little bit, don't want to do that, let's see here. I give it a little bit of slant. I do that just by dragging this, and that kind of canters the transition a little bit. And you'll see how that works in a little bit. And I just want to make this longer just to make sure we're not going to overflow on the video. Okay, so now we've got our mask drawn. You can see even though the nighttime video is visible, we're seeing the daytime time lapse. Okay. So I chose this as my starting point for the transition. So to create I'm going to create what's called a keyframe. And a keyframe is just basically a way to tell Premiere Pro that something is going to be in a certain state at this point in the video. So if I turn on the path, if I turn on the animate for the mask, you'll see now it created a keyframe in the timeline right here. That's what this little triangle denotes. Okay. Then I'm going to move my timeline forward a little bit, and then I'm going to make another keyframe, and I do that by hitting this little circle right here. And what that's going to do is that's going to create a secondary keyframe for that. Okay, so let's take a look at our mask. Right now our mask doesn't do anything, okay? And what's really nice is when you have this open here, you can toggle between the two keyframes, and you can see nothing really happens. But if I go to the second keyframe, select that mask, and then I move that mask to cover the video, now you'll see, now we can see the nighttime video. And what we did is we told Premiere Pro that the mask is going to go from this location on this keyframe to this location at this keyframe. And what Premiere Pro will do is it'll actually move the mask between that. So if we scroll in the timeline, see how that is moving? You can see the transition there. Okay, so let's get this back to a larger view. And there you go. So there's our mask coming in, and it transitions from day to night. Okay. Now, one thing more I like to do, you don't have to do this. That's a pretty sharp line right there. I like to apply a feather to the mask. And what this will do is it'll soften that transition so it doesn't look quite so harsh. And let's set it at 109. So now if we scroll through there and we play the transition, okay, and that's a little fast. So actually what I'm going to do, the other thing you can do is you can move these keyframes to stretch that movement out or shorten it. You can move the keyframes closer together. So I'm going to drag this out to where it is now. And what that did is it just basically stretched out the time between those two keyframes. So now if we play it, see how that's much slower? And I think that's pretty good right there. So I'm happy with that. The feather, I'm happy with the feather. I'm happy with the rate. And at this point, what I would do is I would take this and I would render it, and I would end up with a day to night transition. You know, that's a pretty cool effect. It can really give, time lapses are pretty cool to watch anyways, and you add this to it, this effect to it, and it just steps them up even further. Basically, that's it. That's all you need to do to create your day to night transition. Pretty simple. So anyways, hopefully you found this video somewhat entertaining as well as informational. If you did, if you could give it a like, I'd really appreciate that. And if you haven't done so, feel yourself so inclined, if you could give my channel a subscription, that would be really, really appreciated. Helps my channel to grow, helps these videos to be seen by more people, and helps me to know that the effort that I'm putting into these videos is being watched by people out there. So with that, I'm going to wrap up this video. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.